All right, this is homework 6, number 2. Let's read the description. So homework 6, number 2 asks to extend the previous exercise to count the total number of duplicate elements in the 2D array and display the number on the computer screen. So that's pretty simple enough. So just for starters, this was the previous example that was mentioned in homework 6, number 1. So all we did was we had an input file, which was this, and then we did a file input f out f to open to read the input file and write an output file. Float because it was integer, a which is the name of the array, and our rows and our columns, which is 6 by 6. Then we had two for loops, one for loop. We had four for loops. The first two for loops, I is equal to 0 being less than 6, j is equal to 0 being less than 6, was just to scan everything from the input file. And the second one was just to actually display the transpose of the array. But yeah, enough of that. This is the second one. So the second one, they want to see the number of repeated elements in this case. So we're going to start with include stdio, number of rows and columns being 6 because it is a 6 by 6. Include the stlib.h, then int main. As I said before, you're going to have the file input, output. Then you're going to have float with the array name and like how big it is. So 6 by 6. Int I, k, l, and j. These integers are going to be used for the for loops that we're going to see in a second. An int counter because you want to count how many times certain elements appeared, or more specifically, how many numbers appeared. So yeah, this is just standard stuff right here, where you just take imp f inside equal to f open, so you can read the input file. And this right here is this lf equals f open is to make sure you can write an output file, and if the code doesn't recognize anything, it'll just it'll just say printf error input file cannot be opened, or the error file can't be opened. So yeah. So this for loop right here, for I is equal to 0, I is less than number of rows, and j is equal to 0, j is less than the number of columns. F scan f int p percent f and array ij. This part's simple because it's the same as from number 1 right here. All that's going to do is just scan the input file, which is this, and just see, and just scan it. So it'll know like which numbers were for the rows and which numbers are for the columns. I is going to represent the row, and j is going to represent the columns in this case. All right. And then because we wanted to know like how many times a certain number appeared, we're going to have a counter being set equal to 0 and a flag. So for this, in order to find this one out, we needed four loops. And now it might seem crazy at first, but once you see the logic in it, it's going to be pretty simple. So essentially, we're going to have this for loop act as one. These two for loops act as one array, and these two for loop act as a second array. So for I is equal to 0, I is less than 6, I plus plus. For j is equal to 0, j is less than 6, j plus plus. Now for this one, you can replace the 6 with nr rows or nr columns, but I was just lazy to type it out, so I just kept it as a number. But if you did do nr rows and nr columns, it would be the same thing. So that's the first for loop. That's the first set of for loop. Then the second set of for loop is k is equal to 0, k is less than 6, k plus plus. L is equal to 0, L is less than 6, L plus plus. So these two are going to represent array ij, and these two are going to be representing array kl. So essentially, whenever those two arrays are equal to each other, you're just going to have a counter go on. So yeah. And then if the counter was greater than 1, you're going to have the flag is equal to 1. So essentially, a flag if it's the flag was 0, it's going to signify that that number appeared either once or not at all. And if the counter was greater than 1, you're going to set the flag equals to 1. So that way it knows that the number repeated multiple times. So yeah, you're going to have printf %f repeated array ij print then a second time printf number of times repeat in brackets %d repeated equals %d backslash n ij and count, and then printf printf outf %f number at %d repeated equals %d backslash n. So honestly, you can just comment out these two and just keep this one. But I just wanted to make sure I was getting it correctly before I did printf. So essentially, it's going to printf and it's going to print an output file, which is outf from before, %f. So it's going to show the number for the input file. So say if it was like 5.0, so say 5.0 is number at, and then this part right here would give you like the exact location of where it repeated, and then it's going to show how many times it repeated. So yeah, and then this part's just going to correspond to that. So array ij is going to show the number, and then this part right here, %d is just these two, and then the number of repetition is just count. So if I execute that, yeah. So I'm pretty sure they want this as an output file, but it's going to be the same as this. But for the sake of the question, I'll just show you the output file as well. So yeah, let me just go for the input, and let's just take 2.0 as an example. So 2.0 happens 1, 2, 3 times in this specific text file. So when we go to the output file, it'll say the number 2.0 is located at 0, 1, and it's repeated 3 times. Then right here, it's going to show the second place it was located, so at 0, 2. And right here, it's going to show the third place it was located, which was 1, 3. So yeah, 0, 2, 1, 3, and what's it called? 0, 1. Those are the places where it was located. So yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, right. I'm gonna assume that made sense.
Yes.